All right, y'all, we're fixing to put the shift tower in the 359 here, and we've got a little bit of a problem here. It's too close to the seat, and I guess what we're gonna have to do is cut a few inches off the shift tower real quick, and hopefully it works. If it don't work, I got another spot up under the passenger seat over there is where I'm gonna put it. So we'll see how this turns out. All right, so we got our air shift tower in there, and that's probably pretty close, somewhere around in here where it's gonna be. So in the lift, it's gonna nick the seat right there. I can probably put it in the lift and not actually hit the seat. So we're probably gonna be good there. All right, so we got our rib nut, blind nut, nut zert, thread setter, whatever you want to call this thing. We're gonna screw it on here like this. What it'll allow us to do is put this thing in the hole, and then we'll use this like a pop rivet gun. Stick it on down in there. Maybe, possibly. Yeah, just like that. And then we'll squeeze this thing up. All right, and just like that, that thing is in there. So we'll probably go cut a little bit of this out right here so we can get to it a lot. Oh, no, we didn't have to. It broke off. So we got to do some cleaning up on this old thing too. God almighty. Every time I mess with anything over here, it's like dirt just pops out of cracks and crevices. So probably get the vacuum cleaner over this thing in just a minute, and but we're gonna put another one right here. We got to cut the carpet out so we can get to it good. All right, so I got this little tool right here, and this is basically a metal hole saw. It's made for sheet metal, but if you are patient and use enough lubrication, it will cut a hole in a frame, because I've done it a bunch of times. So I stuck it down in here, and I made kind of a perfect hole where I can line this other rib nut up in here and get it in. All right, so we got all 3 bolts in this thing, or 3 bolts in there. We're gonna put the 4th one in there. We're just gonna kind of, I was gonna try and mock that up where I wanted the last hole. Looks like I'm gonna have to, I ain't got enough room for my drill to do it. All right, let's try and figure out how we're gonna do this. Let's put this in there and just kind of punch down on that. And that's where we need our hole. All right, now we got our hole drilled, and I don't know. I don't know if we're, maybe that'll be clean enough. Everything's screwed up around here with all these holes of different stuff people's put in there through the years. Imagine if I ever take this mat out and put a new mat or carpet in, I imagine I'll take my aluminum welder and be welding up a lot of stuff. All right, fix to put our nut zert in there, but this is how that thing works. It kind of just squeezes up and seals up against the flange of whatever it's the bottom side of. Kind of makes a flange on whatever it's going to sit in. So basically that one pulled through a while ago, and I had to put a new one in there. Actually, this broke off. I don't know if I messed it up while I was trying to set it or what, but you get the drift. Okay, all right, just whatever. Hell, I don't know. It's hot. All right, let's get this thing sitting here. All right, you can see that thing down in there now. It's supposed to go in there just a little bit, or come out of there just a little bit easier, but this thing threads into this head right here. And I guess I've screwed it out so much that it's it pulled out a while ago. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. So let's mock this thing up one more time, make sure it's right. All right, so all the bolts are in here. Got all 4 in, and we had to wiggle them in there. It's not exactly I guess when you put these nut zerts in there, they're a little more you got to be a little bit more accurate than just a bolt hole where you say you put a 3/8 bolt in there and you just wiggle the hole out, put a little bit bigger hole in it. That way you can have some wiggle room, like side to side, to mount this thing up. And those nutserts are a little bit more, they're a little bit more exact. But we got her in there and take it back apart one more time and get started on something else. All right, so we got our tank plumbed up here. I forgot to get a nipple or a barb fitting to put my return line on, because this thing's gonna suck and flow back through this one line. So I'm gonna set this one up. The other truck, it's set up with another return over there, and you really don't need, if you need to put it on there, it ain't really that big of a deal. Get a line made and put it on there. But pulling a dump trailer, it ought to flow either way through the pump and return back that way. So anyway, we're fixing to install the tank and get moving on this deal. All right, so I totally give up on the way that I was mounting this tank. And so what I decided to do is, once I realized that, hey, we got some old tank frames down to the big shop, let me go down there. So I went down there and picked this up and got it here, and the holes didn't line up. So I had holes like side by side right there, what they would have been if I drilled them. So I took this thing and welded all the holes up solid on the front and the back, and now I'm in the process of drilling new holes to mount this thing and hopefully get this thing underway. All right, let's get started here. All right, since I couldn't find my center punch, so I couldn't find my center punch, so I'm gonna have to drill a hole. Drill that pilot hole there, about in the center. Pretty close. Probably not as close as it should have been, but all right. And we are going to use our roto bit here. Yep, just like that, it cuts through that junk pretty quick. And here's what's pretty much left of it after it drills the hole. So awesome thing. I love that thing. Like I told y'all earlier, it'll cut through a truck frame pretty dang easy. So I say pretty easy. If you will, it'll cut through a 3/8 frame fairly easy, and it'll work as long as you keep it lubricated and keep it cool. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, so we got our frame tank on here, and how we mount this, we take these plates, and they basically, find the wide side, basically slide up in here like this and bolt and basically wedge this frame this tank frame with the actual frame flange itself. So let's get started putting this on here and get both sides. All right, guys, what it looks like with the tank frame on there. So we got all our holes drilled right there. Time to put our tank on. We plumbed it for the extra height difference. Actually, the way I had it sitting, it was still just a little bit too low. So anyway, this is we got to do one more thing. No, yeah, our line screws into that, right? No, we need to put a nipple in that. Yep. All right. Oh, it's these little things that make this so time consuming, like this clamp plate that I'm clamping this tank frame to the frame. My suction pipe is hitting it, so I'm gonna have to notch it, I guess, because I swapped plates. The other plate I had on here first was a little bit bigger, so I swapped sides with it, and it didn't seem to help at all. Well, it helped some because we got a lot closer, but we're still out, and I don't want that rubbing anyway, so I guess I'm gonna have to put a notch in it. All right, so I was charging my phone, so I thought, but my charging station on top of my toolbox, I forgot to turn the switch on. So anyway, here's what we ended up with. I had to go and cut, this is a shock rubber right here that comes off like a rear shock or front shock on a truck. I got these off, I just put the shocks on $3.79 the other day. Put those on there right there just to, it don't have a lot of cushion in it. What we're eventually going to do is go back and put get some valve springs and get some longer bolts, so we'll actually have it to where it can shake a little bit. So, all right, so we got that all bolted down. You can see all my plumbing up in there. It's all ready to go. As soon as I go get that nipple, I got an inch nipple and not an 1.25 inch nipple a while ago. So I got to go to town again. So, all right, we got our tank on. One step closer. All right, so we got our plate here. This is our angle iron. We're gonna bolt this to the frame and weld us in a pipe bushing in there. And then our quick connect for our trailer will hook up right up in there, and then we'll be done with this part of this project, I think. I hope. I'm tired of messing with it. All right, so we got our bracket made, got our bushing welded in there. I had hell out of my welder trying to weld this top side on it, and so threw my welding lead and broke it, so I couldn't use it no more. And so I went down to a big shop down there and we got an identical snap-on welder down there, and so apparently after talking to my guy down there, that snap-on welder down there, after it got old, you had to turn it up hotter to make it weld. Used to, I'd put mine on 3 and it would, it burned through stuff. So anyway, ended up looking like crap on top because I had a bunch of dirt dauber nest on there from where I was trying to weld. But once I got it figured out, we ended up welding it. I wish the bottom side or the top side looked like the bottom side. So anyway, neither here nor there. It's done now. So. All right, we got to call Snap-on Man, see if we can, he's in town today, so I got to see if I can find a welding lead. All right, so we got our little bracket done here. I got pipe dope all over this everywhere because I'm just messy like that. But anyway, we got to get this down in here and bolt it up right here. It'll go right there just like that. And this will be our quick connect for our trailer for our pressure line, and then our pressure line from our pump will screw right into there. So once we get all this plumbed up and everything, we get our pump PTO on there, it ought to go pretty smooth from there. I'm hoping. Nothing else went smooth, so I shouldn't expect anything else, right? All right, we're trying to get our deck plate on here now. Now here's the latest problem. We can't get our door to close on our 7-way, so I don't know. We're going to have to try something different, I guess. So let me do some pondering on this and see what I can come up with for this. All right, we're about to start putting this PTO on. So Go ahead and get this PTO cover off. Kind of clean the surface up right here after all this dripped off a little bit. All right, get this thing over here now. I got my gaskets on there. They make two different thicknesses, thick and a thin. And I think I go two thins and a thick, maybe. I can't remember. Let's see if we can get this. I didn't tie my gaskets together. No grain truck, I can just put that on my belly and balance it. Not this old gal. Alright, got one started. Now this bolt right here, you have to take this adapter plate off to get it on there. So once you get it in there, you never take it out. The way you do it is you just slowly put it in. If I can get it to pop loose out of where it's at. There it goes. Where you at? There we go. Oh yeah, there's one right there. I can quit holding it now. So what we'll do is we'll tighten this up just a little bit and get the other ones here in just a second. Tighten this up. Alright, so checking my backlash here. It's just enough to not be enough. It's kind of one of those deals. It's better to be a little bit loose than a little bit tight. So I'm going to go back, and I think what I couldn't remember if I always put 2 thicks in a thin or 2 thins in a thick. So I'm fixing to go back and put 2 thicks and a thin on it. So oh, poo. One fell out. Alright, so here we are. We got 2 thicks and a thin in here. That's a lot better. It's almost a little bit too loose, but I think that's what I've always put in them, and I think that's what I put in the green truck. But it's one of those things that kind of gets in your mind and stays in your memory forever, just kind of like a rhyme or something. It's 2 thicks and a thin, so that's about where I want it. If you get it too far shinned too close, then when you put your PTO in, you'll hear it whine. So if you ever listen to somebody running their PTO and it's whining like hell, you know what they did. So that'll be good right there. Let's finish putting bolts in. Alright, so in case y'all are wondering how all this works here, this collar right here, I'll show you where it goes here in just a second, but you apply air right here from your switch in the cab and it shoves this thing forward. Okay, so that collar right there, it runs into that, just like that. So what this thing will do is, this one right here is hooked up to the bottom gear on the transmission, which it'll turn all the time. So once you hit the air from the cab, it slides that forward and starts bending this shaft, which your pump, it's got splines and it runs up in there, and that's what operates your pump. So slide that back out of the way, and I'm gonna put this on and put oil back in the transmission. All right, so here's something I learned last time I put a PTO on, which is on my green truck the other day. So this is the same PTO that come off the green truck, come off my cousin's truck. So I like to check, make sure everything's working just right. Don't take but a squirt there, because it's supposed to be like 60 pounds regulated. Let me slide out and show you what happened. Remember this piece right here, because that slide, the bottom of that collar thing right there goes right there. So that truck had a transmission go down, and when we put the transmission in it, we didn't put the PTO back on. So the piece of the gear that broke off of that transmission was laying in the bottom of that thing, and I had a time trying to figure out what was going on, and finally I took that slide cover off. And when I took the slide cover off, I looked, and I'll be dang, I just happened to see that piece of gear in there. So I didn't know what the heck was wrong. I just that blew my mind. So anyway, I'd already had the pump on, had to take the pump off, take the PTO back off, still couldn't figure out what was wrong, put the PTO back on, still couldn't figure out what was wrong. I pulled the slide cover off, and lo and behold, there it was, a piece of gear laying right up in there, hanging that thing up. Whew. Oh, yeah. Woo! Them old girls don't get no lighter. Seem to get heavier with the older I get. All right, so first things first is plumbing supply, and we're putting a regulator in here to keep our air regulated at 60 pounds, and that'll kind of help things. You don't need 120 pounds on all this stuff, so we'll put this regulator in there. Go. Put that regulator in there, and that'll keep things from getting too much pressure from the air tank. All right, we got our 1/4-inch air line running down through this hole right here. So come down here and hook it dead in to our regulator. All right, so come up here. I'm probably gonna cut it off somewhere about right in here, so we got enough room to pull our air shift in and out. All right, so as we put them in here, we're marking them. There's supply, and there is PTO right there. Now the pump, not so much. Usually what you do if the pump doesn't actuate, you just swap them down there on the bottom, especially if you got them quick connects. Makes it a whole lot easier. All right, so we got our wires run back here. This is our little thing. I don't know if it's a solenoid or really what it is. I guess it is for our tarp system, but we'll have power and ground coming to it. And this is from the cab. And then we need our other piece that hooks up that goes to our trailer. So let's get this started. All right, so we got our solenoid for our tarp system on there and the lead going out to the trailer there. So it's moving along here. Finish up the deal in here. We got to get our tarp switch mounted. I got the holes drilled for it over there. We're going to mount it on the back of our air shift tower and hook everything up, and then I guess fill this thing up full of oil and go try her out. I think that's all we like. All right, so we got our tarp switch in here. I hope that's not going to cause a problem right there. I had to cut that self-tapping screw down just a little bit to make that work. And we're just going to stick it in here and see what happens. But here is our lines here. This one is our PTO that we had marked yesterday. Our supply. And this is tip and low. So that's a up and down on the trailer. It goes to the pump itself. So let's guide this stuff down in here and put a shift tower in, or shift tower in. All right, so time to put hydraulic fluid in the old truck and go try this thing out. Anybody want to help me put this hydraulic oil in here? Because I don't really want to put all this in there today in the heat, but this is the easy way I know how to do it. Just put them on the tailgate of the pickup and just walk across and keep dumping. All right, so we're about to burp the system. What we're gonna do is pump just a little bit. How to turn the pump on. Come over here, and usually I got somebody with me and they just work the pump and I just leave this thing open. But since it's just me, we're just gonna have to do a little bit at a time till we purge the system. All right, let's hit her up. Run back here. I'm just gonna leave it on. I'm scared to burn the pump up, but whoop, whoop, that should do it. All right, moment of truth here. Let's see what happens. All right, y'all, I'm gonna give a quick little rundown on my PTO setup. Here's my air shift tower I cut down, and it's all up in the way. I'm not really 100% satisfied with it. There's my tarp, open and close there. Like I said, I moved what I did on my tailgate, my air tailgate, is I took my air slide and I put a quick connect on it and a quick connect on that glad hand, and now all I got to do is flip that air switch to open the tailgate. Here is my tailgate switch, or solenoid itself. I had a heck out of that thing. I wasted a day trying to figure out how to get my tarp working right on it. My bracket and everything for my hose, or for my trailer hose, quick connect for it. I welded a bushing in that thing and mounted it to that cross member, and I've had to move all this stuff around and space that 7-way connector, space it up. I ended up having to weld this up too. It was been broke off for a while, so I did get to fix it. Now, here's my pin set up. I really ain't crazy about my pin set up, but I cut this off of another truck that we had and welded it on here. and then welded the tab right here on both sides, so that pin goes all the way through it. Really, it needs a tube welded to the bottom of the fifth wheel right there for extra strength. And anyway, that's how it was on another truck that we had, and I cut it off. And kind of a quickie, I'll end up probably cutting that off and redoing that whole deal. But yeah, we welded it up, end up doing a pretty decent job on it. Hadn't touched the paint up on it, so that's just a quick rundown. This aluminum tank, it was all clean, and I got it dirty trying to get it on there and get everything fast enough the way it is. But I'm not really crazy about this tailgate wire deal. I think what I'm going to end up doing is taking the wire coming out of the solenoid and running it through this frame rail and through that cross member right there, and then come up to the bottom to a female plug right there, and then do a cold line like this one going straight to it. Kind of clean that up a little bit, but it didn't work out exactly like I wanted to, so, but it is working. We're making money with it. So there is my wet kit setup. Let me find my creeper real quick. All right, so here are my lines coming out of my pump right there. And like I said, this is kind of temporary. I didn't really like the way I did that. And what I'll end up doing is I'm going to end up building some brackets to have some hose clamps to hold these hoses. And I'm not really sure how I'm going to work this around this transmission cooler right here. But we'll go back and do that for both hoses and the both torque wires. So we'll end up coming off of this cross member with brackets to hold everything, and then there's everything. My hose is leaking from my trailer, so it's kind of making a mess. I've got to tighten that up. But there's all the plumbing work coming out of the tank. I kind of made a mess. I was in a hurry and made a mess with all the and there's the plumbing for the back side or the bottom side of the pressure side. So yeah, but anyway, we're gonna do a little cleaning up and straightening up on this when we get a free minute and make it look a lot nicer. So all right, there is my wet kit set up. It's not the fanciest, but I don't really like zip tying them hoses up there, and everybody does it, but I'm not crazy about it, and gonna change that. I'm gonna change a few things up on this thing, clean it up, make it look a little nicer. We just ran out of time, and you know, when you got to go an hour and a half to go get every little thing you need, it's hard to do things exactly like you want to. So we're just going to take a little time, make a little money, and get back to work, because we were super busy this week, and I needed to finish this up, so I did the best I could. So anyway, there is my wet kit setup.